How Mitakuyepi. Hello everyone. December 29th is a sad day for Lakota people because of the Wounded Knee Massacre, which happened in 1890 on the 29th of December. When we look at tragedies like that, it would be good to begin by looking within ourselves, and we should ask ourselves, do we have peace in our lives? Because Lakota Star Knowledge teaches that reality begins within, and that also means that peace and love begin within. So whenever we're looking at any kind of situation that is tragic, it's normal to have feelings of sadness and anger and even fear. But if we dwell on those emotions, we may respond to these incidents in ways that are not healthy because they're not based on clarity. This means that we should have clarity in our lives, and we do that by taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, that we come to peace with the past in our own lives, that we can look at it and learn from it, that we have no emotional luggage concerning our past. That's how we have clarity. And that's how we nurture our peace as well, by being at peace with our past. And this is the way to be before looking at these tragedies like the Wounded Knee Massacre and what happened to our relatives, the Dakota people, in December 26th in 1862. With the mass hanging of 38 Dakota warriors, and 2 more were hanged later. So they call that the Dakota 38 plus 2. And so I encourage you, I pray for you, that you first seek for peace within yourself, because that's the only way to be at peace with these incidents. And this is the best way to honor those who died during those times, by having peace in our life, learning from our past, learning from our difficulties, so that we can recognize and then enjoy blessings. And when we learn from the past, we receive knowledge and wisdom. Those are blessings. And this is also how we prepare a way of peace for those who are still coming, for our descendants. And this is how we honor them as well. So come to peace within yourself first. That is the truth. And to learn more about this Wounded Knee Massacre, I did a talk on this several years ago, and I want to play it for you now.
The 29th of December is a sad day in Lakota history. This is a day of remembrance for those who died at the Wounded Knee Massacre of 1890. And I'm going to discuss that. And this is very important to know about this incident. I want people around the world to know about this, because in American history, this event, along with other atrocities that were committed by the United States, are being hidden by the United States. The United States does not want the world to know about these things that happened in their own country. I think America really could take a lesson from Germany, as Germany is setting a really good example. Germany has also, in its past, committed horrible acts towards the Jewish people and gay people and gypsies during World War II with the concentration camps, and that was all horrible. Yes, I'm not trying to make this a which one is more horrible kind of a contest here, but everybody knows about World War II, and some people even deny that the Holocaust happened. especially Muslim radical people, really deny that. This is a tragedy, of course, and at the same time, in America, they deny what they've done to peoples that they are highly oppressed. In Germany, the government has really done a lot of things to try to make things better. Every evening on German TV, you will see some kind of show about World War II. You'll see the footage, and this is done so that people don't forget, that people learn from this, so they don't repeat it. So that way we know where to go. We know which direction to go. I think that's a wonderful example that Germany is setting. And I think America really, 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 really can take a lesson from Germany in that. Because America, to this day, denies that they were at fault with all these massacres that were committed against Native peoples. In 1890, among the Lakota people from Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation, Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, Rosebud Sioux Reservation, and Lower Brule Sioux Reservation. Lakota people from those four reservations were part of a movement called the Ghost Dance religion, which was not a Lakota religion. The Ghost Dance religion, I'm going to explain to you what that was, okay? That the Ghost Dance religion was a false religion. This was created by a Paiute man who was trying to become the native Jesus, because he had knowledge of Jesus Christ through the Mormon church. This is all fact. I know the Mormon religion really good because I've studied it. I've studied a lot of religions in my life, and the Mormon religion really sticks in my mind. And I see where this Paiute false prophet, Wovoka, took his ideas from the Mormon church. And many people consider the Mormon church a cult. So that shows you that the Ghost Dance religion really has a bullshit foundation. And it was a false religion. And it used peyote. And when you're under the influence of peyote, you're really open to the power of suggestion. So if somebody says something to you, you see it when you're under the influence of that hallucinogen. And that's what Wovoka knew. And this is how his religion grew. And his religion was also a racist religion, because he said that if you do his religion, that all the white people will go away. That's racist right there. That violates the Lakota foundation concept of Mitakuyepi. Mitakuyepi means, a lot of people say all my relations. That means we're related to everything. Well, that's half of the definition. The other half is, it goes the other direction too. Everything inside of you is all relatives too. Everything inside of you is all relatives too. This includes your soul. This includes your personality. This includes your emotions and everything that makes your physical body. It includes all of that. That's all relatives too. So everything inside of you is connected, just like you're connected to everything around you. That's Mitakuyepi. So as soon as you omit a group of people just because of the color of their skin, it doesn't matter what color it is, but just because you omit one of them, you violate that Mitakuyepi concept. So when Wovoka was saying, do my religion and all the white people will go away, that's racism. And that's not the ancient way. That's not the ancient way. So a lot of young native people, they'll say things like, we have to be ready because when the white man destroys himself, we have to heal this world. Well, if the white man destroys himself, He's going to take all of us with him because all humans are connected. I saw a young guy who says he's from my reservation, which is Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation. He wrote this on Facebook one time, that, we got to be ready because when the white man destroys himself, we have to be ready to heal this world. And that is racism. That's not the ancient way. It is absolutely not the ancient way. This is not about being Indian. It's not about being white. It's about being human. You look at the very, very first Lakota stories. We're not even called Lakota. We're called Ikche-Oyate, or some people say Ikche-Wichasha, Ikche-Wion. But it doesn't say, it does not say Lakota. That didn't even come into existence until just a couple thousand years ago. What it says is Ikche-Oyate. That's human. Human nation. We have a very old story that explains that we evolved from a species called Pte-Oyate. Some people think that means Buffalo Nation. No, it doesn't. Pte are human in form, but they're not human. But they're not animal either. There's something different. When the first ones came on the earth, they turned into human, and they were called Ikche-Oyate. The first Pte-Oyate that came on the earth became Ikche-Oyate, human nation. Then they got into trouble and were about to go extinct. Another group came on the earth to save the first one. And that second group, they turned into what today is called Ptechchaka-Oyate. That is the Buffalo Nation. So this means the humans and the buffalo are closest relatives because we both come from Pte-Oyate. It's a very old story. It doesn't say Lakota, it says Ikche. Okay? That's always important to keep in mind. So, when we were talking about the Wounded Knee Massacre, this was a very tragic event. But the thing is that if it wasn't for this false prophet from the Paiute Nation in Nevada, if it wasn't for him, that massacre never would have happened. Because he's the one who created this false religion, this false racist religion. At that time, in the late 1800s, in Native America, it was a dire straits time because Indians were feeling extreme hatred from white people. And they just wanted it all to go away. And Wovoka, a false prophet, told the people what they wanted to hear. A real prophet will say things and most people will hate him. But a false prophet says exactly what the people want to hear. And at that time, a lot of Indians were just tired and weak in mind because they were not eating healthy foods and they were going through difficult times. And then all these bad experiences happening with white people caused them to become racist. And so when Wovoka said, "Do my religion and all the white people will go away," that's exactly what they wanted to hear. So they bought it. Wovoka was like a used car salesman saying, "Buy this car and you'll never, ever need gas again." Which doesn't even make sense. because a car needs gas. But Wovoka would say, if you buy my car, you'll never need gas again. Gas makes itself in my car. That's what he's saying. It's too good to be true. That's exactly what his religion was. Too good to be true. Because it was false. And the people that were low in spirit, Wovoka took advantage of them. Because he wanted to become the Indian Jesus. He was a narcissist. He had a mental problem. This was not a medicine man. And I'm going to explain to you how this happened. Okay? But first of all, before this massacre happened, Sitting Bull was assassinated by his own people. See, Sitting Bull was the last great Lakota chief from the Hunkpapa Lakota people who today reside on Standing Rock Sioux Reservation and also up in Canada too. Some of his people are still up there. The descendants are still up there. Because after the Little Bighorn Battle of 1876, in which Custer was defeated by Lakota under the direction of Sitting Bull, a lot of Sitting Bull's people went to Canada, including Sitting Bull, but they weren't welcome up there. And so he returned with a lot of his people, but some of them stayed up there. And then, of course, the American government refused to recognize the traditional leaders of the tribes, and they created this Indian police system in which now people who were troublemakers could now become Indian police and harass the chiefs. And these are the people who killed Sitting Bull. These are Lakota people. The Indian police officers were Lakota men. They were troublemakers. And they were allowed to have guns. In this way, they were able to harass those who used to be in traditional government. This is how they had two factions on all reservations: the troublemaker Lakota people and the traditionals. So the government wanted Sitting Bull to quiet the ghost dancers, because America thought the ghost dancers were planning a revolt. They thought they were planning a revolt against the government. And of course they weren't. It was just a nonsense religion. But Sitting Bull said, that's what they want to do. I can't stop them. He said that they have to find out for themselves. Now Sitting Bull, he tried the ghost dance. And he said, all I did was got dizzy and fell down and hit my head on a rock and I just got a headache, he said. So he didn't believe it. But he told his people, it doesn't work, he said. I don't believe it. So because he would not do what the government asked him to, one morning the Indian police were trying to arrest him, and Sitting Bull supporters came out, and next thing you know, the Indian police killed Sitting Bull, and then a little gun battle started between Sitting Bull's traditionals and the Indian police, and I think 14 or 15, 16 people were killed during that. Well, Sitting Bull's people started to get worried, and then that's when they headed to Cheyenne River to speak with them and say, what shall we do? So it all starts with the death of Sitting Bull. When we look at the past, we have to look at it and approach it in a spirit of healing, in a spirit of reconciliation, because life is all connected to each other. This is what Mitakuyepi means. Everything inside of us is connected, just like we are connected to everything around us. That really has to start within. You cannot really appreciate the fullness of how we are all connected to each other until you nurture the connections within you. In the late 1800s, there was a Paiute Indian from Nevada by the name of Jack Wilson. Notice that name, Jack Wilson. That's not even an Indian name. That should say something right away. You know, when you're looking at the time period of the late 1800s, and there's an Indian guy with the first name and a last name that's not Indian, that should really draw suspicion immediately. How come he had that name? I don't know. But what I do know is that he learns things from the Mormons. The Mormons have some interesting spiritual concepts, and he learned these. And he learned this idea of being a spiritual prophet, learning about Jesus Christ and how he was the Son of God, and how Christians elevate Jesus Christ above themselves, saying that Jesus never sinned, that Jesus was a man of perfection because he was the literal Son of God. So this elevated him above others. Now what is that telling you? That's duality. When you put yourself above others, trying to make others believe that you are more special than others, that you're better than others, you're an authority. This is duality. This is not healthy. And people do this by using all kinds of tricky methods, and these are fallacies. One of them is an appeal to authority fallacy. This is where people will get up in front of a crowd and they will say things like, well, I'm a sun dancer, and I have a pipe, and I have 4 Indian names, and I come from a long line of medicine men, and I'm a descendant of Chief so-and-so. For one thing, that's breaking the Lakota virtue of humility. This is breaking a Lakota virtue. And when you break one, you break them all, because it's also showing disrespect for others because you think you're better than others. Today, a lot of Indians are this way. And this doesn't make you better. Like, I know people who are descendants of Red Cloud and of Sitting Bull and of Crazy Horse. I know them personally. And they're assholes. They speak Lakota incorrectly. In fact, there's a descendant of Red Cloud that comes over here. This guy can't even speak Lakota at all. And they all are living on the merits of others and not their own. They want people to say, wow, gee, since he's a descendant of Chief so-and-so, he must be just like him. That's not true. That's not how it works. We're each responsible for our own communication, which also means we have to make our own reputation. That's what I mean when I say a fallacy is trying to get others to raise you above them, to put you up on a pedestal. Another fallacy is to get you to be all emotional and then appeal to that. Like they'll say, think of somebody you loved in your past life and they died, and you wish you could be with them again. You wish you could see them again. Well, if you just follow my belief system, you will. Yeah? Because in my belief system, there is a God, and God talks to me, and He told me that we can be with our loved ones who passed on once again, and be in a place that will always be happy, where there's no pain and nothing bad. So this is appealing to your emotion, so that you get all emotional and it's something you want, it also shows that you don't have peace in yourself yet. In the Lakota tradition, we have a 1 year of mourning ceremony. After that year is over, we need to be in peace with it. Sure, we missed them, but life continues and new people will be born that you have to teach. That's the cycle of life. And we understand that when we come to peace within ourselves. So there is value in letting go, because it's also teaching you to hold on to what you have and teach those who are coming, who are going to be born to this earth. So you know what to value. And this example that I'm saying also shows that when people appeal to emotions, they want you to lose clarity. Because when you communicate from emotion only, you're losing clarity. You're not communicating with a clear mind. And that leads to lots of other unhealthy things like racism. So they try to keep you in an emotional state, and also to deny you emotional development by saying that pain is bad and happiness is good. That's dualistic. See, there is value in pain. There's value in happiness. There's value in sadness. There's value in anger. There's value in fear. When we learn from the experiences that those emotions came with, those emotions bring us peace. But dualistic people stay in that emotion, and they define them as good or bad, and that we should only be with this one. That's living in an emotion. So people who appeal to your emotions are trying to keep you from being you. Well, that's breaking a virtue again of respect and compassion and wisdom. Because when you live in duality, you don't have wisdom. You might have some experience, but you don't have wisdom. So living in this dualistic way breaks Lakota virtues. I shouldn't say Lakota virtues, because these virtues exist all over the world. So they break virtues. So that's what you learn in Christianity. You learn to separate yourself from others. That to follow a certain God's word and teachings will lead to a place of eternal happiness and no pain. Early Indians didn't like this concept, because in early Indians, they saw the value of pain. That once you learn it, it brings you understanding, it brings you peace. Going through sadness and anger and fear, there's value in those emotions. They bring you peace. They help you to develop emotionally, and then you can develop spiritually. Dualistic people cannot develop spiritually. So like what I was saying earlier with the guy saying, if you believe my ways, then after you die, you can go to some place where your relatives are waiting for you who died before you, and you can all be eternally happy again. This is what I mean. When people are trying to keep you from being yourself, they're trying to keep you emotionally drunk, which means you cannot develop spiritually. So they're really disrespecting you. That's what Christianity teaches. That's the underlying thought. Now, I'm not saying this as an attack, okay? But this is from the Lakota Star Knowledge perspective. Religion is duality. So it sets people up over others when they say, I am a priest, I am a bishop, I am a reverend. But when you put yourself in a position where you are wanting others to consider you as an authority above them, this is duality. And anytime somebody considers themselves above others. This is duality. This is unhealthy. Anytime you're trying to separate yourself from others, this is duality. It's going to lead to unhealthiness. It is unhealthiness. So this Jack Wilson saw this and he thought, I'm going to be like Jesus Christ. So from the Mormons, he took some concepts and gave them a Paiute flavor. But it's still the same concept. It's rising above others. It's putting yourself above other people. And so, with the assistance of a hallucinogenic drug called peyote, he was able to use also the power of suggestion when under the influence to cause people to see things that were not really there. And he really uses emotion. He gets you in a certain emotion, and when you're in this intoxicated state of mind and you're really focusing on a certain emotion, what you see is going to be based on that emotion, but not reality. And that's the foundation of his religion, the ghost dance religion. So he developed this ghost dance religion and said to others, if you follow my way, all the white people are going to disappear. All the buffalo are going to come back. The earth is going to swallow up all the white people and bring back all the Indian people who died at the hands of the white people. So already he's teaching racism. But this was a very sad time for Indians all over the place. So he was telling Indians what they wanted to hear. This is what false prophets do. True spiritual people say the truth. And dualistic people find that hard. And they don't want to hear it. Because it brings up feelings of discomfort from their past. They haven't come to peace with it. Because they're dualistic. And Western society is a dualistic society. So in that society, a true spiritual teacher is going to say things that most of the world is going to consider hurtful. This is where that expression, truth hurts, comes from. But when you're emotionally healthy and you hear it, it makes you feel at peace, or it encourages you to maintain your peace. Well, this Jack Wilson, like I said, he learned some Mormon concepts and just gave it a Indian flavor, changed his name to Wovoka, and started setting himself up as a prophet. A false prophet. So, like I said, during that time period, it was a very, very dire straits situation for all Indian people. We were becoming physically unwell because as we were being forced to reservations, we couldn't hunt anymore, and we had to eat unhealthy foods that were coming from the government. Our language and our ceremonies were considered illegal, so we were hit physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and that affected our minds next. So we got sick in all four parts of the self: mind, body, heart, and soul. And they're all connected to each other. So we became very weak as a nation. This is how the churches were able to convert us to Christianity really easy, because they got us in a very weak state. And we believed what they had to say. And some of what they said was that our ways are from the devil, because they disagree with the Bible. That's how we became dualistic. But Wovoka also caused us to be dualistic too, because here you have the Christian priests on one side saying that Indian ways are from the devil, and then you have Wovoka on the other side saying white people are evil. They're both saying the same thing about each other. That's duality. They're using the same tactics. That's duality. They're both saying the other one is the bad one. This is duality. When people are sick, physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, they don't have clarity. They only accept at the most 33% of reality. So when people try to get to their emotions, like I said earlier, they appeal to your emotions. They set themselves up as authorities. This is exactly what Wovoka did. He did the same thing that Christian priests do. And terrorists do the same thing. Cult leaders do the same thing. It's all in the same vein. It all has the same foundation, which is duality. What Wovoka was influencing Indians to become was racist. And we were in a very sad situation. We were weak physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And what Wovoka said was what we wanted to hear, because we blamed the white people for all our misgivings, our situation. And when a guy is coming around saying, yeah, see, these white people are evil, and if you follow my religion, the earth will swallow them all up. That's exactly what Indians wanted to hear. What he's really encouraging is racism. Because the truth is not all white people are bad. And Wovoka is a good example of how not all Indians are good. Wovoka does not care about anyone else but himself. He's trying to become Jesus Christ. He's trying to become a savior. We do not have this messianic concept whatsoever in the Indian way, because in our ways, as I stated several times, we are not above each other. We may disagree, but as long as we don't force our ways upon each other, we can still have peace. But we do not rise above each other because of humility. So Wovoka is breaking that. He's breaking Indian concepts, and at the same time, he's saying white people are bad. That's not humility. When you are a racist, you are not humble. You are breaking virtues here. You're disrespectful. Because when somebody is not being healthy, that has nothing to do with their skin color. There's good and bad wherever you go in this world. Even within your own family. Admit it. That's your proof that not all Indians are good. So not all white people are bad either. But when you try to promote it like that, you are a racist. So when Wovoka is saying that all white people will disappear, he's being a racist. Lakota Star Knowledge tells us that what happens to one happens to all. If all the white people disappear, so will all the other humans. That's the truth. So we were in a sad state in the late 1800s, and Wovoka was saying what we wanted to hear in our unhealthy state of being. A healthy person would have said, that Wovoka is full of shit. He just wants people to see him as a god. That's narcissism. This is not spirituality. So, this is how he got a lot of followers. False prophets have a large amount of followers. And so his religion started to spread around the United States. And then the American government didn't care about it until it reached Lakota country. Because we were the tribe that gave the most resistance to America. So once the ghost dance religion reached Lakota country, now the government got concerned. They thought that what we were doing was planning an uprising. And so the reservations asked for military support because they felt something was going to happen. So on the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, this is where Chief Sitting Bull, one of our greatest chiefs, this is where he lives. And the Indian agent there appealed to Sitting Bull to stop the ghost dancers. Now let me explain what an Indian agent is. When we were first put on reservations, of course we don't speak English. So there needs to be somebody there to run the affairs of the reservation. So Washington, D.C. sent men out to each reservation to run the business of the reservation for the benefit of the Indians. And if Indians have concerns, they tell the Indian agent, and then the Indian agent tells Washington, D.C. That's how it's supposed to work. So the Indian agents are really white guys. They run the affairs. In the beginning of the reservations, as I said, we could not leave. So they made sure of that. Okay? And they no longer recognized the chiefs. America no longer recognized the chiefs as leaders of the people. And they wanted the tribes to have a police force. And the Indian agent was responsible for setting that up. So what resulted was that people who were troublemakers were chosen to be the police officers. They could carry guns. Now these troublemakers could boss around the chiefs. They could make them do things. Now they're dualistic. They were the only Indians who were allowed to have guns, and they could really boss the chiefs around now. So it's setting up something rugged to happen. So anyway, you have this Indian agent named McLaughlin on the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation who was very concerned about this possible uprising. He wanted Sitting Bull to silence it. And Sitting Bull said that he can't do that. They said what they're doing is the ghost dance religion. And Sitting Bull suggested that McLaughlin take a party from Washington, D.C. and go visit Wovoka himself because that's where it's originating from. And that's what they should have done. Sitting Bull's a wise man. But instead, they took this as Sitting Bull not wanting to cooperate, so McLaughlin gave orders to the Indian police to arrest Sitting Bull early in the morning. And when they attempted to do that, there was an altercation in which several people died on both sides. Now, what I mean by both sides, actually, they're all Indians. But what I mean is that some of them were Indian police officers. And some of them were Sitting Bull's family. And so Sitting Bull was one of them. He was shot on that day. December 15th, that's when he died. So now the ghost dancers on Standing Rock are scared. They think that now the cavalry is going to come in and wipe them out. So they flee to the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, which is where I'm from. And they go to a place around Cherry Creek, South Dakota, which there were some ghost dancers there. So they went there and told them that Sitting Bull was assassinated. So now the leader there was a man by the name of Chief Bigfoot. And so he said, well, Chief Red Cloud kisses American ass. Chief Red Cloud tried to sell the Black Hills for just his family. He's got his nose so far up American ass that he really is a traitor to Lakota people. He started off kind of questionable, and to keep his status as a chief, he had to do some good things for the people. But overall, this was a very, very ruthless leader. He played a role in the assassination of Crazy Horse. He wanted it all for himself. That's the kind of guy he is. But the bottom line is that America listens to Red Cloud. So Chief Bigfoot and the people from Standing Rock decided the only way to stop an attack is to appeal to Red Cloud and have him tell Washington, D.C. that they do not want a battle. They do not want a war. Because the American government is not listening to the real leaders of the Lakota people, but they will listen to the traitor, Red Cloud. Traitor against his own people. They will listen to him. So that was the plan. So they headed out. Now it's December. December is really a dangerous month out in nature because the blizzards are really, really bad. So now these Lakota people from Standing Rock and Cheyenne River are going to head over to Pine Ridge to appeal to Red Cloud to tell the military not to attack. On their way, they meet people from Rosebud and Lower Brule. These are ghost dancers too. They joined the group because they heard the same news. They were afraid too that they were going to be attacked. This was a small group, people. This is a very small group. Not more than 350. So what this is telling you is that only a handful of Lakota people were following this false ghost dance religion. They were desperate. So they were on their way and they got stopped at Wounded Knee Creek. And the cavalry was the same cavalry that was defeated by Sitting Bull in 1876. So 14 years later, the 7th Cavalry was rebuilt, and now they have the Indians surrounded. They are seeking revenge. So they stopped this Indian group, and they went in there, took all their weapons. A Catholic Jesuit priest went in there, did the last rites. The Indians had no idea what was going on. But they wanted peace. They wanted to show that they were peaceful, so they gave up their rifles. But they had no idea what was about to happen. And what was about to happen was planned. Because, like I said, the Catholic Jesuit priest went in there and did the last rites. Then the cavalry fired in. Helpless, old people, women, children, and killed most of them. They massacred them. And this is where we have to stop for a moment. This is sad. We have to express what we're feeling for those of us who are sad. And some people, this angers them. Right away, they want to say, this is how white people are. This is not true. Not all white people are this way. Not all Indians were ghost dancers. Most of the Lakota people were not. Not all Indians are good. In the ghost dance religion among Lakota people, before this massacre, his name was Kicking Bear, had this vision of a shirt that if they wore this shirt, the bullets from the cavalry would not even touch them. That the bullets would stop in the air and just fall on the ground. So he instructed people to make these shirts. These were the ghost dance shirts. The Lakota ghost dancers are the only ones who came up with this concept. So as this Wounded Knee Massacre was about to happen, everybody was putting on their ghost dance shirts. And Kicking Bear saw people falling to the ground. The shirts were not working. So he threw himself on the ground, started throwing dirt on himself. Then he was killed. The whole religion was fake. all because a Paiute Indian was trying to become Jesus Christ. That's the truth. We have to look at it. We have to stop and look at it and say, yes, this is going to make some of us angry. It's going to make some of us sad. It's going to make some of us scared. We have to examine that. We have to be careful not to communicate only from that emotion. We have to look at the whole situation. The bottom line is not all Indians are good. Not all white people are bad. It was a sad time. Very sad. There's all kinds of stories of survival where children were hidden in certain locations. Some children were tied onto the stomachs and under the horses, and the horses were whipped and forced to run away from there. So this is how some children escaped. Some parents had their children escape like this. One of my aunties, her grandfather escaped like this. A lot of these children arrived at a place on the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation, a community there. These horses came running in, and the people there were just astonished because there were children tied to the stomachs. There were children tied to the stomachs underneath these horses. Little children. Geez, you know what? That's been over 100 miles. Run. It's amazing. So these children told a story. These children told the stories of what they saw and what happened. So that's how the news made it to other reservations concerning this Wounded Knee Massacre. So this is it's just amazing when you hear about these things, yeah. And when I first learned about this, it really made me sad. Yeah, it really made me cry. Little children, tied to the horses, and they just ran and ran and ran and ran. The horses seemed to know where to go. Yes, they found this community, and that's where they ran to. Today, that community is called Hakini, the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation. So Hakini has something to do with the survivors of the Wounded Knee Massacre. So soon after that massacre happened, the blizzard really got bad. And so the soldiers left, and 2 days later, the Indians from Pine Ridge went over there to check out the situation, and there were a little bit that were kind of still living. So they took them to a nearby church, and they set up kind of like a triage. There's like a hospital there. That whatever victims that were still alive, they brought them there. And there is a very famous picture taken of that church. Because, see, 2 days earlier, that community was celebrating Christmas. So on the wall, in the background, you see peace on earth to all men. It's written on the background, peace on earth. And you see all these Indians that are about to die in the picture. It's so tragically ironic. And when these people from Pine Ridge were looking at the aftermath, they found children hidden in bushes, in ravines. These are babies. And they found one baby still trying to suckle from its mother. The mother was killed. She was stabbed. Really sad stories. So those children grew up on the Pine Ridge Sioux Reservation, but they are not Oglala. They're either from Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation, or they're from Standing Rock, or they're from Rosebud. Because that's who these people were in that massacre. So again, the people who were massacred at Wounded Knee were not from Pine Ridge. They were not Oglala. So they were raised by Pine Ridge families. And people say that this community on the Pine Ridge Reservation called Wounded Knee, that they're descendants of these survivors. So they married into the Pine Ridge Lakota people, but they're not really from there. Do you see what I mean? And so, again, we have to really be careful that we do not say all white people are bad. That's not the truth. Because not all Indians are good. So the question comes to mind. If someone had stopped Wovoka, would the Wounded Knee Massacre have happened? No, it wouldn't have. What was his motivation? What was his motivation to do what he did? His motivation was he wanted to be Jesus Christ. He wanted to rise above others. If it were not for this ghost dance religion, the Wounded Knee Massacre never would have happened. That is the fact. We have to face that. But we have to be careful not to be judgmental either and say that if, God damn it, if it weren't for this son of a bitch Wovoka, these people would have never been massacred. We have to be careful. It is true though, but we have to be careful. Because we might stay in that emotional state of anger. And pretty soon we're going to say all Paiutes are bad. You see what I'm saying? So we have to really, really, really be careful about that. Instead, when we're looking at the past, we have to do it in the same way that we look at our own past. And it would be beneficial if we did that in a healthy way. When we're establishing peace within our lives, we have to face our past and come to peace with it. So that when we think about it, it doesn't bring in any emotions anymore. And that way we enjoy our blessings. We enjoy the good memories even more. Because that's medicine. If we do not come to peace with our past, we are stopping or slowing down the medicine of our good memories. Do you see what I'm saying? So, we have to be this way first before we can look at an incident like the Wounded Knee Massacre. But we have to learn from that so it doesn't happen again. We have to talk about it, but with the goal of reconciliation. And I don't see that happening right now. Today, people look at it and say, shit, that's the white man. See, this is what the white man does. And next thing they go around, they see a white guy at the gas station or a white guy at the store, and right away they want to hit him just because he's white. That's racism. My mind, I'm thinking right now, see, I've been to Switzerland many times, and I met with people who lived in the mountains. These are white people, and they live with nature. They know the clouds. They don't know the scientific names for them. All they know is that when it does a certain thing or when it's shaped a certain way, they know what the weather's going to be like for the next few days. They know how to read the weather by looking at the clouds. They feel nature. They feel the spirit of nature, because they're connected to nature. These are white people too. They're just as connected to nature as our ancestors were. Up in North Sweden, north of Norway, North Finland, there are people up there called Sami people. These are, America, we know them as the Laplanders. These are white people too, and these people, they have a pipe, they even have a sweat lodge, they have a teepee, they have a drum. Their animal is the reindeer. They are just as connected to nature as our Lakota ancestors were. And they still are. The people in Lapland, the Sami people, they're still living with nature. These are white people. Not all white people are bad. There are people in America that are really trying to help anybody who needs help. And a lot of these people are white people. Not all white people are bad. You cannot judge an entire race of people based on one white person or one person of that race. Because even among Lakota people, there are chiefs that were ruthless leaders. I'll give you an example. On the Rosebud Sioux Reservation, when the reservation time period started, there was a man there by the name of Spotted Tail, Sintegleshka in Lakota. And this Spotted Tail was like Red Cloud, in that he kissed American ass. He was a traitor to his own people. He would tell the Indian agent, yeah, this one man, he's talking about overthrowing the cavalry, so you better arrest him. So the next day the cavalry go and arrest that guy. Turns out it wasn't even true. That's the kind of trouble he started. But because he was willing to spy on his own people or spy against his own people for the Indian agent, Spotted Tail was allowed to have a gun. So he would go among his people and threaten them with that gun. So he would tell the tribal council, okay, this is what I think should happen. And if anybody on the council disagreed with him, he would confront that man in private with a gun. And he would say, you better do it my way, or you're not going to live. He threatened people with their lives. Is that a good Indian? No, it's not. On Pine Ridge Reservation, Red Cloud played a role in the assassination of Crazy Horse. Was that a good Indian? No, it wasn't. And you have the false prophet Wovoka, who wanted to be a messiah. He wanted to go down in history as the greatest Indian ever, created a religion that resulted and ended in the Wounded Knee Massacre. Was that a good Indian? No, it wasn't. That whole massacre could have been avoided if it were not for that religion. It's just as dualistic as Christianity because it has good versus evil. That's what dualism results in. Massacre. Massacre of the self, massacre of the nation. Massacre of nature. Self-enslavement. So when we look at this, we have to look at the whole situation. We can't just look at the incident itself. We have to look at all the events that led up to it. We have to look at the thinking behind it. The situation did not get better since that massacre. After the massacre, the cavalry were awarded Congressional Medals of Honor for this battle that they successfully won. How do you call it a battle when when you go in there and take all your opponent's weapons, surround them, and then shoot into there. That's not a battle. Even when I was a little boy in U.S. history class, our textbooks never mentioned anything about Indians. There was one paragraph, one little tiny paragraph, about 2-3 sentences, talking about the Battle of Wounded Knee occurred in December 29th, 1890, in which several thousand Indians tried to revolt against the United States government, were defeated. That's what it said. Several thousand. It's just 350. And no, they were not revolting. It wasn't even the battle. It was a massacre. But America was trying to change that. All kinds of atrocities happened even after this massacre happened. It didn't just end at the massacre. Yeah? I'll give you some examples. See, a lot of the army guys, they knew that museums would pay good money for some of these things that the Indians were wearing. And so they were taking the ghost dance shirts off, moccasins, necklaces, pipes, anything of cultural significance. They took off the Indian bodies and they were going to sell them to museums. And in one instance, there was a moccasin that was on a baby, and the guy got one side off, but one he couldn't get off because the baby was shot, and there was blood that went down its leg and into the shoe. And because of that blizzard that happened after the massacre, the moccasin froze onto the baby's foot. So what the soldier did was he cut the foot off and took the foot with him. And until the 1990s, that foot was on display at a museum in Kansas. 1990s. These ghost dance shirts ended up all over the world. But also in the 1990s, there was a museum in Scotland, and the person up there, the curator, he was going through the inventory to see what they all had, because not everything was on display. So when he was going through the inventory, he found this ghost dance shirt, and he was like, holy crap, where did this come from? So he started his research, and he realized it came from the Wounded Knee Massacre. He was shocked. You see, people from Ireland and Scotland and Wales are in the same boat as oppressed peoples all over the world. They are, and still are, oppressed by the British. The English government still oppresses them. Their history with England is not good, just like our history with America is not good either. So they know what it's like to be oppressed. So he contacted Lakota Times newspaper back then about this, and they got some people together, and a Lakota delegation from Cheyenne River went over there to Scotland, and they saw the shirt, and they did ceremony for it to release any tu that's in the shirt. Tu is spiritual essence that comes from people who wore that clothing, or it belonged to them, or they made it. So to purify that and neutralize that energy that's still in there. So they did that, and then they brought the shirt back to South Dakota. Do you see? Not all white people are bad. This is a white guy from Scotland who reached out to the Lakota people and said, I have something of yours and I want to return it. See, not all white people are bad. When you hear Indians say, the Washichu this, the Washichu that, the white man this, the white man that, that is a racist. And what's really funny is that the Indians who do talk like that, they say, oh, I'm not a racist. I have friends all over the world. I've been to Russia. I've been to Germany. Yeah, but that's because they are embarrassed to be white. And they accept an Indian oppressing them. They want an Indian to oppress them because they're ashamed of being white. That's duality too. That is also unhealthy. That is an extreme expression of low self-esteem. That's what racists want. Like attracts like. Oppressors attract victims. That is still racism. When you are ashamed of your own race, you're still a racist. It's an inverted version, but it's still racism. One family who are descendants from these officers that committed this massacre, they were going through their attic one time and they found this Congressional Medal of Honor. And they researched it. They didn't even know that their great-grandparent had this medal. And they wanted to know, what did he do? Because they were like, wow, this is amazing. They thought they came upon a wonderful discovery. And they learned that it came from the Wounded Knee Massacre. And they were ashamed. So they apologized. They sent a letter of apology to the Indians, and also they sent the Medal of Honor back to Washington, D.C., and they said, we don't want to have anything to do with this. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. So again, not all white people are bad. Now, in your own life, when you come to peace, sometimes there's incidents that happened in your life in which you were wronged. Maybe you were bullied, maybe you were ripped off, maybe you were, I don't know, but you were the victim. But it caused you a lot of pain. And you have to come to peace with that. This involves forgiveness. But forgiveness does not require that you have to confront that person. Forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. You have to come to peace with that, so it doesn't bother you. If that person is still alive, it's your choice. You can go to that person and say, you know, concerning what happened in the past, I just want you to know I forgive you. And then leave. Because you do not need outside validation. When you're a healthy person, you have self-esteem, which means you do not need outside validation. And then you just leave, let them go. They might still be angry. They might try to belittle you some more, but you just let it go. It's not for them, it's for you to let go and move on so you can be spiritually developed and be in the here and now. That's what you do. Do you await for him to apologize to you? No, you don't. You take the time to come to peace with it. Do you need his apology? No, you don't. Because he's only responsible for his communication, just like you are only responsible for your communication. Now, yeah, it would be nice if he apologized, but you don't need it. Okay? It's not crucial to your development. But you can come to peace with it. You can visualize it and be done with it. So likewise, when we look at this Wounded Knee Massacre, do we need the United States to apologize for this? Of course they should. But do we need it? No, we don't. The healthy way to look at this is to look at it with the goal of being healing. Because if we don't do this, all we're going to end up doing is being angry all the time. And this is what radical Indians do. The American Indian movement uses this as a tool to get younger Indians to hate white people. They're just like Wovoka. They're just like the Christian priests. They're just like terrorists. They're just like cult leaders. They want you to get in the emotional state of anger and to keep you there and keep telling you that all white people are this way. Don't trust the white man. Don't trust the Washichu because he's going to trick you every time. That's what they teach. This is racism. This is not the way of our ancestors. So they use the Wounded Knee Massacre as a way to keep people angry. They use it as a tool for their own personal agenda. This is very incredibly disrespectful to the people who are buried in there and all ancestors, because it's violating the concept of Mitakuyepi. Everything is connected, just like everything inside of you is connected. When you try to separate yourself from others, you're violating what Mitakuyepi means. So when you hear Indian people saying, "I hate the white man for everything he's done," he's violating a Lakota concept. And every Lakota virtue he's also violating. That's not the way of our ancestors. So we're wasting our time if you're waiting for an apology. That's not necessary. It would be nice, but it's not necessary. We have to own up to what we're going to do with that. And we need to honor those who fell in that massacre and pray for those who committed it, because they were dualistic. The whole situation was two dualistic organizations or two dualistic groups against each other. And this was nurtured by Wovoka's so-called religion. Do you see what I'm saying now? He was perpetuating unhealthiness. He was perpetuating Indians to become victims to an abusive military. That's what he was encouraging. That's not the way of our ancestors. The ghost dance religion was not the way of our ancestors. That was a man-made idea founded upon Mormon religion, which is also a man-made religion, as are all religions. It's not the way of nature. It violates nature to be that way. That shows you an Indian man who wants to rise above others and be seen as a messiah by telling others that they are the chosen people and that the others will disappear off the face of the earth if they just follow his religion. This is a madman. This is a racist. This is your evidence that not all Indians are good. We always have to remember that. Good and bad exists in all races, even within your own family. Not everybody is good. So we don't need an apology. We need to heal. If you're going to sit there and twiddle your thumbs with the upside down flag of America wrapped around you, waiting for America to apologize, you are being irresponsible, because you're missing life. You're saying that your happiness depends on your oppressor. That means you are a victim. You are not a survivor. That's why we don't need an apology. We need to heal. So when we look at this Wounded Knee Massacre, we have to do it with the goal of healing and reconciliation. Otherwise, we end up being a racist, an oppressor, and that's not healthy. And even if America wishes to not reconcile on this, that's not our problem, because we are responsible for our own communication. So we have to be responsible by coming to healing for that. And if others join us, the more the merrier. But the goal has to be healing. And along with that, we have to stop labeling an entire race of people as good or bad. Because the tendency is to say that, look at what happened at Wounded Knee. That's evidence that the bad white people killed the good Indian people. That's not true. Because for one thing, only a handful of people followed this false ghost dance religion. Most Lakota people did not believe it. A ghost dance religion is not a Lakota concept. It's a dualistic concept. It's not the Indian way. The ghost dance religion was not the Indian way. It's not a healthy way whatsoever. Because it perpetuates unhealthy living. That's what happens when false prophets cause trouble. So after that Wounded Knee massacre, this Jack Wilson pretty much shut up. I don't know how he lived with himself, because if it weren't for his false religion, that would not have happened. But from duality, nothing healthy comes. And his religion was pure duality. So something was going to happen. If it didn't happen in South Dakota, it probably would have happened someplace else. Dualism on its own never results in anything healthy. It only leads to unhealthy things. But from unhealthiness, we can learn. We can learn, and that will bring healing. That's why I said that's the approach we need to have when we look at these kind of incidents. And that's what we have to do to ourselves first, though. Because reality begins within. We have to look within our own past and come to peace with things. People who did shit to us, we have to come to peace with that and forgive them. It's not for them, it's for us, so that we can move on and let them go. Because they're on a very sad path, and we are on a healthy one. That's the true nature of forgiveness. That's the way to look at it. But if the result is that you end up calling all white people bad, or anything like that, you're on the way to your own massacre. So think about that. I just wanted to say these things, and I say this in utmost respect to the people who lost their lives there, and the people who were led on, who were tricked. And my hope is that their souls are continuing to develop. We learn from our miscalculated decisions. That's the most important thing, is that we learn from it and heal. That's what brings peace. So that we can honor them in a respectful way. But if you have one tinge of hating white people because of this, you're not on the road of healing. You are not on the red road. You are not on the healthy road. And you're headed for your own massacre. I want the main message to be healing and peace and reconciliation. That's the most important thing, because those ideas come from the Lakota prayerful expression, Mitakuyepi. That's what the universe is founded upon. The universe is not founded upon hate. It's founded upon peace. All universes are founded upon that. Peace is not happiness. Peace is just being. Happiness is part of a learning process.
The goal is not happiness. The goal is peace. And that's how we need to become in our own lives. We need to become that way so that we can look at these kind of incidents and learn from it, heal from it. And that's how we will honor those that fell at that massacre. But if you hate white people, then you are dishonoring the ancestors, including those who are buried in that mass grave. Now, in the 1970s, this grave site was in really bad shape, this Wounded Knee Massacre grave site. Weeds all over the place, trashy around the area. And the Pine Ridge Sioux tribe refused to maintain it because they said, those are not our people in there, so why should we take care of it? You see, not all Indians are good. Those bodies, they're being grossly disrespected by the Pine Ridge Sioux tribal government. So do you see? Not all Lakota people are united. That shows you again, the situation among Indians is not always good. So it's a tricky situation. The bottom line is to look at it as a healing experience. How can we heal from this? How can we come to peace with this? And it begins within you. You have to come to peace in your own life first before you can come to peace with this. Otherwise, you end up being a racist and you lost yourself. You're eroding yourself away. My goal is peace. My goal is reconciliation, and it is to follow or do anything that follows that concept of Mitakuyepi. Mitakuyepi does not include hating white people. Mitakuyepi includes all people because we are all connected to each other. We can either nurture that or not. But nurturing it brings peace. But it begins within you. Because Lakota Star Knowledge says reality begins within. You have to look at the whole situation as much as possible. Now, every year they do a memorial ride from Sitting Bull's home in Little Eagle, South Dakota on the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. They begin there and they do this memorial ride from there to the Wounded Knee Massacre site. And I think we have to be careful when we're doing that, because if the result is you have young people saying that, well, we're doing this because it's along the frequency of, hey, Indians are better, then I'm against the ride, because that's not the purpose. But if they're doing this in the spirit of we have to come to healing, we have to reconcile, then I support it. So it's a tricky situation, because I think a lot of the young people that are on this ride, actually they're very emotional and they're focusing on the anger. And that's disrespectful. So my hope is that there's really wise leaders that are guiding this, that are reminding, hey, we cannot hate the white people. Not all white people are bad. Not all white people are evil. And not all Indians are good. When we get into desperate situations, sometimes we make wrong choices. And sometimes it ends up in a situation where it's too late to learn from it and we end up dead. Like what happened at Wounded Knee. So what I talk about on this show is living a healthy life so you don't end up in your own massacre. One more thing I wanted to say was concerning this tomb, this spiritual essence. It's sometimes when an incident happens that's so traumatic, that involves a lot of people, that some of their tomb remains in that location. So when you walk in that location and you don't even know what happened there, you get a weird feeling. Yeah, it's like sometimes it even makes you sick physically. So that's an evidence that something happened there. Well, that's how Wounded Knee used to be too. That people would hear things, and this is not the souls. The souls have moved on, but this is like a residue, like a recording of the event, and that's what people were hearing. So this ride that I was mentioning earlier, part of that included blessing that area to neutralize the energy there. And once they did that, they stopped hearing these sounds. But the souls have moved on a long time ago. They were not trapped. Yeah, souls cannot be trapped. But they could leave a residue behind. It's like a recording. And that's the energy of the event is still there. And that can be neutralized. Then all that goes away. That's what happened. And like I said, when you look at this, look at it in the spirit of learning. But don't blame anybody, because blaming only traps you. And people will end up either being ashamed of themselves or they end up feeling better than others, and this is unhealthy. So what I say is learn from this as much as you can. Don't just read one book. Read a whole bunch of books. Look at a lot of information, because not everything is true that's written about this incident. But there is some information out there that is. That's why you have to go through it, sift through it. So let's honor these guys and by living our lives in a healthy way. Okay? So with that, I thank you very much for taking time to tune in and listen to this show. I really, 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 really appreciate it. And answering racism with racism never works. That's a fact. All I ask is that you think about it, nothing more. And in our way, we have no word for goodbye, because for us, everything is circular. So it's only about beginnings, starting over, healing, rejuvenation, renewal. There is no end. So that's why we have no word for goodbye in Lakota. So instead we say until next time, which in Lakota is Toksha Ake.
I invite you to come visit my website at wolakota7.com. You can see the address on the screen, and here you can learn about the books that I've written and also some of the services that I offer. For example, spiritual consultation and Lakota language lessons. And you can see the books that I wrote, and one of them, called Keya Mato Stonehearts, I wrote with my wife. And if you would like to order these books or order any of my services, you can see all the information on the screen. And for more questions, please write to me at the email address that you see at the bottom right of the screen. Oh, Lila Pilamaelo, thank you very much.